Pleased to have you as my listener this day. It is another day to learn and receive teachings of His Word. This is New Life Program from Adventist World Radio, the Voice of Hope. I'm your host, Chileno Dian. As always, your health is our priority. On our topic today, during the health segment, we are going to share with you on how legal drugs can be used appropriately without one overdosing or underdosing him or herself. Just at the health segment, we'll also be having Pastor Kigundu with a topic known as the age of appetite during the Bible segment. Stay tuned for you not to miss out on this and much more.
Turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. I would not be alive, Lord, I'll tell you the reason why. For I'm so afraid my Lord might call me, and I wouldn't be ready to die. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. I would not be a backslider, Lord, I'll tell you the reason why. For I'm so afraid my Lord might call me, and I wouldn't be ready to die. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Now don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Keep on to Galilee. Keep on to Galilee.
Drug is very important when used in the right way. When some of us become sick, we usually run to the doctor in order for us to seek medical attention. After the doctor has run some tests, they normally prescribe some drugs for us in order to relieve the pain we are feeling. We now give way to Emmanuel Sunday to explain more to us concerning legal drugs.
Once again is a warm welcome to our health programs. In our program today, we're going to talk about the legal drugs. Coughing, sniffing, a sore throat, pain in your little toe. With problems like this, few of us worry because it seems there's always a medicine that exists for it. But how safe are these medicines? And how do you know they've had the necessary quality checks? We've all been sick once or needed a medicine for a certain health condition. When this happens, most will pay a visit to the doctor, or when the condition is less severe, a simple walk down to the pharmacist could be enough. But how do we know the medicines and creams sold at the pharmacy are good, healthy, and will help you? It's good to know that the only way for a consumer to know whether a medicine is approved and safe or not is looking at the data on the label of the medicine. Even though the medicines are licensed to be sold, there are still precautions and possible dangers that consumers should be aware of. The safety of taking medicines is very important in this case. When the sickness or the medical situation isn't so serious or doesn't require a control by a doctor, the medicine to cure can be purchased from a pharmacist. Most non- and prescription medicines are based on chemical products. However, there are also medicines which are based on herbs and other natural products. Using medicines, though easily available, isn't something that should be done as a habit. I have always been interested in the future. My past I well know, and the present I'm daily experiencing. But the future is much more exciting. Trying to guess the future is one of my favorite occupations. When all the questions have been asked, one can always ask about the future. What do you foresee for the future? Has always been my favorite question after all the other questions have been answered. I can remember as a young teenager in school, we kids were expected to make up good questions to ask when it was time to ask questions. One day I asked my teacher about the future, not only because I was expected to ask an intelligent question, but because I was genuinely interested in the future. It was very generalized and very universal. What do you think will be the major issue in society 20 years from now? It was an intelligent question, I thought, and worthy of a high mark in my class evaluation of that day. But the answer was just as remarkable, and I remember it just as clearly as the question. My teacher, whom I greatly admired, said that the effect of drugs on society will be the great challenge when you are an adult. Now here we are, some 30 years later. You heard the reports in our program today. The challenge of a drugged society is indeed a major concern today. Of course, there have always been drugs used by people throughout history, but not of the sophistication and availability of today as well. And as you heard, the drug culture crosses all boundaries, all ages, all societies. What can be done about this mass problem faced by every nation on earth? Can laws be passed that will prohibit circulation of drugs? Is any government on earth strong enough to halt the production and distribution of drugs? Is there any end in sight to the nightmare we are all facing? If not by using drugs ourselves, or just being affected in some way by drug users. And notice here that the least we can be affected is in higher taxes needed by our governments to fight or combat drugs and rehabilitate drug users. What is really needed, I believe, are people who will just say no. No to drugs in any size, shape, or form. But can we collectively muster the courage and stamina to just say no? In ancient history, there was one who gave us a good example. Daniel, a prince of Egypt who was destined to become king, became famous and wealthy because he was wise. And in his wisdom, he was always able to say no when tempted to mistreat his body with any of the allurements of the kingdom's court. He had access to anything the world could offer. Dear listener, remember that there is, according to Odd, no such thing as a totally safe medicine. So when buying medicine, remember to check the container for some kind of approval from a medically accredited organization. In Europe, this means to look for the product license number, usually written on the outside of the container or prescription bottle. But some of the safest advice given in regard to taking medicine is to see your doctor or pharmacist first. Thank you for tuning in, and may God bless you abundantly.
This is Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope, bringing you today's edition of New Life program. I'm your presenter, Tileno Diambo. Remember that you can always reach us with your concerns, contributions, and thoughts about this program by sending them to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00100, Nairobi, Kenya. Our email address is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org.
Crowded is your heart with cares. Have you no room for Jesus? Captured by your gilded snares, have you no room for Jesus? Lo, he's standing at your door, knocking, knocking more and more. Hear him pleading evermore. wasting all your precious hours? Have you no work for Jesus? Spending those God-given powers, have you no work for Jesus? Striving not to conquer sin, seeking not a soul to win, bringing not a wanderer in. Have you no work for Jesus? Seeking earth's possessions fair, have you no time for Jesus? None for gracious deeds to spare, have you no time for Jesus? Worldly pleasures, wealth and ease, seeking, grasping toys like these, striving only self to please, have you no time? Have you no work? Have you no room for Jesus?
Appetite is normally considered as a strong desire or craving for something. We now invite the man of God, Pastor Kigundu Ndwiga, to share with us more concerning the age of appetite. Be enlightened.
Another important social condition given by Christ as a characteristic sign of the age preceding his second coming is the indulgence in appetite, gluttony, and drunkenness. Eating and drinking as if there were no tomorrow was characteristic of the days of Noah and Lot. And according to Jesus, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man. That is Luke 17 verse 26. Paul also confirms Christ's prediction when he says, "In the last days, men will be lovers of self, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God." 2 Timothy 3 verse 2-4. In every age, there have been pleasure seekers whose main goal in life has been to satisfy their appetites. Today, however, this hedonistic trend has greatly increased because as a result of scientific and technological advancements, many persons, especially in the so-called developed countries, enjoy more leisure time and economic prosperity than at any other period in history. A generation ago, most people had to work so much for so little that they had little time and energy left for pleasure seeking. Today, however, the situation has drastically changed as more and more people can enjoy increased personal income and more free time, which unfortunately is spent in eating, drinking, and pleasure seeking. The paradox of our times is that whereas severe food shortages destroy millions of lives in poor countries, too much eating devastates millions of lives in affluent societies. According to the American Medical Society, 40% of the American population is overweight. An American anthropologist, George Amelagos, estimates that the fat stored in adult Americans is 2.3 trillion pounds. Such amount of fat, according to Amelagos, could provide enough energy to fuel 9,000 automobiles for 12,000 miles for 1 year. Millions of overeaters today are worried by the health hazards of their weight, such as diabetes, hypertension, heart and kidney diseases, and emotional trauma. To shed off that extra excess weight, billions of dollars are spent every year on diet pills, books and weight control programs, and in some cases, surgery. Weight control programs have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Weight Watchers International, according to U.S. News and World Report, conducts 17,000 lectures a week for more than 550,000 dieters in U.S. and 28 other countries in the world. However, what is saddening is to imagine that whereas many have excess food, there are others who are starving to death in millions with nothing to eat. I remember a very sad, heart-wrenching episode that happened in a Kenyan family during the 1997 famine and was covered in the national newspapers. The family dog had starved to death and had been buried. Driven by hunger, a family member, a young boy, exhumed the remains of the dog and proceeded to eat. That meal caused his death. The most sad thing is that such things are happening while there are others who are having an excess and are not even touched by the harrowing experience that the less privileged members of the human race are going through. The tears and agony of all these starving people are captured in the words of Mrs. Arlene from the Philippines when the World Vision president visited her a few years ago. She said, "I feel so sad when my children cry at night because they have no food. I know my life will never change. What can I do to solve my problems? I am so worried about the future of my children. I want them to go to school, but how can we afford it? I am sick most of the times, but I cannot go to the doctor because each visit costs 2 pesos and the medicine is extra. What can I do?" The following is the heart-rending story of a poor Brazilian couple as told by Stan Moniham. "My emotions could scarcely take in what I saw and heard. The 3-year-old twins, lying naked and unmoving on a small cot, were in the last act of their personal drama. Mercifully, the curtain was coming down on their brief appearance. Malnutrition was the villain. The 2-year-old played a silent role, his brain already vegetating from marasmus, a severe form of malnourishment. The father is without work. Both he and his wife are anguished over their existence, but they are too proud to beg. He tries to shine shoes. The wife cannot talk about their condition. She tries, but words just will not come. The mother's love is deep and tender, and the daily deterioration of her children is more than she can bear. Tears must be the vocabulary of the anguished soul. However, despite the publicity given to the cause of the starving, the desperate cry for help falls upon deaf ears. Many people choose to ignore that anguished wail, even if they are in a position to do something about it. One reason it is possible for the world's affluent to ignore such tragedies is that changes have occurred in the way famines manifest itself. In earlier historical periods, whole nations experienced widespread starvation and death. Today, however, the advancement in both the national and international distribution systems has concentrated the effects of the scarcity among the world's poor wherever they are. People with money can always buy food. Famine unfortunately affects only the poor. When food scarcity triples the price of grains, middle and upper income people in developing countries continue to eat. But people who are already devoting 50% of their income to food simply eat less and die sooner. Death usually results from diseases their underfed bodies cannot resist. Unfortunately, children are the first victims. In developing countries, the infant mortality rate is up to 10 times higher than in developed countries. Malnutrition is a contributory cause in the death of many children. In 1990, UNICEF reported that 151 million children under 5 in the developing world were malnourished. The same report states that more than 250,000 small children die every week from malnutrition and illnesses that can easily be prevented. At the current rate, the report concluded, more than 100 million children would die from illness and malnutrition in the 1990s. As we have underscored, eating and drinking have become today both the pastime and the problem of the rich minority of the world. North Americans, Europeans, Russians, and Japanese devour an unfair share of the world's available food. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Americans consume 5 times the annual food consumption per person in the developing countries. What is even more shocking is when we come to meat consumption, because according to the United Nations, the livestock of rich countries eat as much grain as do all the people of India and China. This means that to satisfy the craving of rich nations for meat, millions of tons of grains, which could feed the hungry, are fed to livestock. This indeed brings home the timeliness of Jesus' prediction that before his coming, many will be obsessed with eating and drinking. Drinking was also a problem in Noah's time because after the flood, Noah himself got drunk. Jesus predicted that the same problem would prevail during the days just prior to his coming. We do not need many facts to prove to us that drinking is indeed a serious problem today. The general assumption has been that drinking is a problem primarily in industrialized countries. The World Health Organization reports that alcohol-related problems constitute an important obstacle to the socio-economic development of a large number of developing countries, and in addition are likely to overwhelm their health resources unless appropriate measures are taken. The increase in the consumption of alcoholic beverages in recent years has been staggering in most countries of the world. According to a recent World Health Organization report, in 25 countries with fairly complete statistics, annual per capita consumption of alcohol increased by between 30 and 500%. In that report, it lists among the major alcohol-related problems crime, traffic accidents, absenteeism, and as a consequence, low productivity. In fact, alcohol is implicated in 13 to 50% of rapes, 24 to 72% of assaults, and 28 to 86% of homicides. Statistics, unfortunately, cannot convey the human anguish and misery caused by drinking. Millions of lives and homes around the world are severely affected. In America, for example, alcoholism victimizes over 10 million people and is a chief contributing factor to 75% of the divorces, 60% of the fatal automobile accidents, 50% of the homicides, and 1/3 of the suicides. And unfortunately, the rest of the world is following suit. Drunk driving, according to Newsweek, has become an international epidemic in the world, a socially accepted form of murder. In the U.S., for example, we are told more Americans die at the hands of drunk drivers in 2 years than were killed in Vietnam. And on the average, about 3 Americans are killed and drunk drivers injure 80 people every hour of the day. The drunken slaughter of the past decade has been a staggering 250,000 Americans. The excessive eating and drinking of our time, which are causing untold human sufferings and deaths, represent a unique pre-Advent sign. They underscore the fact that we are living at the time that was predicted by Christ, when, as in the days of Noah, many are abandoning any self-restraint in their search for self-gratification. They show us that we are indeed living in the last days predicted by Paul, when many would be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. These signs remind us that the Lord is coming soon, and the question comes, are you ready for Him? Dear listener, commit your life to Him right now, so that when He comes, He will take you to that city whose builder and maker is God. May the Lord bless you.
That brings us to the end of today's program. It is always nice having your company, and I'm looking forward to it in our next program. Thanks, and remember to send us your views, comments, and suggestions regarding this program to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00111, 100 Nairobi, Kenya. Our email address is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org. On behalf of the producer, I have been your presenter, Tileno Diambo.
Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Now don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Now don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. I would not be your liar, Lord, I'll tell you the reason why. For I'm so afraid my Lord might call me, and I wouldn't be ready to die. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. I would not be a backslider, Lord, I'll tell you the reason why. For I'm so afraid my Lord might call me, and I wouldn't be ready to die. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Now don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Now don't you let nobody turn you round, turn you round, turn you round. Now don't you let nobody turn you round. Keep on to Galilee. Keep on to Galilee. Keep on to Galilee. I'm troubled, I'm troubled, I'm troubled in mind. If Jesus don't help me, I surely will die. I'm troubled.